Pam Braun. Just a little bit about Pam. Her love of cooking started early, and she's continued throughout her life. It began with her preparing dinners for her family of 7 at age of 10, progressed to her managing her first restaurant at 21, and moved on to her owning her own, and then being at the age of 29. But then she was diagnosed at the age of 52 with late-stage fallopian tube cancer and was given a 15% chance of survival and a 75% chance of recurrence. Her fierce determination to do all she could to help matters through her cancer journey, and this led her to her expedition through the science of food and its relationship to cancer. Her research led to the development of the ultimate anti-cancer cookbook, bringing her combined passions for good food and healthful living together. She currently resides happily, healthfully, and cancer-free in Los Angeles. So please help me welcome Pam Braun tonight.
Hi, everybody. Hi, thank you for coming, and thanks to Nancy and Miriam for making this happen. I've got a lot that I want to cover, so I've got a PowerPoint. I am just going to dig right in here. I have to share out my screen, so if this goes sideways, bear with me. Okay. So that is my name, as Nancy said, Pam Braun. That is my email address. Feel free to email me. That is my cell phone. My phone is always open to anybody who, wants to give me a buzz, a patient, a survivor, a caregiver, whatever. That's my, by the way, if Miriam hasn't sent it to you, she has it. It's a PDF of this PowerPoint. So you don't need to write anything down. It's all in a PDF. It can be sent to you. I want to start with some disclaimers. Again, that is my name. You'll see there are no initials after it. I am not a dietitian. I am not a nutritionist. I'm not a nurse. I have no initials after my name. This is what I can put after my name, however. I'm an 18-year late-stage cancer survivor. I carry the BRCA1 gene mutation, which is the same gene mutation that Angelina Jolie carries. That's why she had the mastectomy and the total hysterectomy. I am high risk for ovarian, which I've had with the fallopian tube. I'm high risk for breast cancer. I'm higher risk for several cancers, including pancreatic and thyroid. So even though this is 18 years out, this is very much a part of my life. I pretty much live my life trying not to get cancer again. It's on the forefront of my mind. I'm a cookbook author, I'm a former restaurant owner, and I am a former chef. I can also put this after my name because it absolutely defines me. I hate cancer. I hate cancer with every fiber of my being. I certainly hated it when I got it. I hated it, before I got it. But the last few years since my book has come out and I do these workshops and I've done some speaking, I've heard the stories and I see the devastation that this thing leaves in its path, and I hate this disease. It has become my personal goal to change the face of cancer by what we put in our supermarket carts. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I do want to let you know where I am coming from. A little bit about my cancer story. This is my 52nd birthday picture up here. I was 52 years old. It was 18 years ago. If you really suck at math, I turned 70 this year. Just a couple of weeks ago, I turned 70. I still have trouble getting those words out, but I'm grateful, very grateful for every lap around the sun. And as Nancy said, after a lot of tests and whatever, they found out that I had late-stage fallopian tube cancer. They gave me, I went through hysterectomy. I had 8 rounds of chemo. They gave me a 15% chance of survival and a 75% chance of recurrence because this cancer comes back. I knew that my odds weren't good, and so I got actually extremely calm about it. I don't know why. And I said, well, okay, if this is it, but I'm going to do everything I can to stay here. And so I started researching food. And what I found out through my research, and this was mostly in labs with rats and mice and test tubes, but what I found out is that some foods have shown to cause cancer and some foods have shown to prevent cancer. So I start putting together a little diet around those two groups. And of course, there was nothing on fallopian tube cancer. There's still nothing on fallopian tube cancer. It's very rare. So I didn't care if oranges helped prostate cancer in mice. I put it in my diet. And that was 2004. In 2007, the second expert report came out and with their recommendations, and I could see that my little diet was kind of a subset of their recommendations. So I knew I was on the right track. I also want to say that there's no proof to anything I'm going to tell you today. Not because I'm giving you faulty information. There is no proof. I know a lot of people think there's proof. Oh yeah, I saw on TV, I read an article, there's proof. There is no proof. What we have is a lot of evidence, some of it very strong, some of it, not so much, but we've got a lot of evidence. But no, 2 and 2 is 4, always going to be 4 proof. It's not there. And if anybody tells you, then, you know, they don't know what they're talking about. This is not a black and white science. It's shades of gray, and it's shades of gray all over the map. Let's just start with some pretty crummy odds here. 1 out of 3 women is going to get cancer in her lifetime in America. 1 out of every 2 men. Children being born today have a 50-50 shot at getting this thing. We're in the middle of an epidemic. We're not just in the middle of, you know, the COVID epidemic. We are in the middle of a cancer epidemic. But this one, I don't know, we just seem to somehow accept, though it's in my genes, probably not. Only about 15% of cancers are genetic. Cancer is now more common than getting married or having a first baby. That's pretty bad. But here are some of the better odds. So scientists now estimate that 1/3 of all cancers could be prevented with diet and exercise.
8 p.m. on Zoom.
1/3 of all cancers. That number bumps to 2/3 if we stay out of the sun, if we get our screenings, if you don't smoke. So Biden, you know, when he was vice president, was looking for the moonshot, because his son passed away. So he looking for a moonshot for cancer. We've got it in our hands, but we just, you know, it's hard work, and it's so systemic in our country how we eat. It's very difficult to change. I also want to say that even within what we do know about cancer, we still don't know why some people get it, why some people don't, why some people get a recurrence, why some people don't. So I know when I got it, I thought, why did I get this thing? What did I do? No, we don't know. All we can do is our best if we get it. This is a very interesting article. And I also included this in the handouts. This was an article that came out in the Atlantic, 2019. You can't starve cancer, but you might help treat it with food, because this is where this science is going. We are not there yet. We probably will not be there, even in my lifetime, if I'm lucky enough to make it to 100 laps around the sun. We're not going to, but it's going there. They're starting to look at food. When I got diagnosed, I asked my doctor, I said, is there anything, you know, I can eat, do? He said, no, nothing. But I don't blame him, because it was 18 years ago and there wasn't much out there. Now they're going to start treating cancer, and cancer is not one disease, it's 100 different diseases, right? They're going to start treating it just like they treat diabetes. You change your diet. Just like kidney disease, you change your diet. You're going to change your diet with your cancer. And also they're looking at diet or lack of diet to help with your treatment. So it's the direction it's going, but it's not there yet. This is a very interesting podcast that I just stumbled on this week, and I put it in here, the link in, is from Sloan Kettering, and it is 2 doctors from Sloan Kettering talking about sugar. And I know this is something that people feel like there's proof that sugar causes cancer. It's an 18-minute podcast. If you're interested in this at all, I suggest you listen to it. It's very straightforward. These doctors are great, making it very understandable for us. Sugar at this point doesn't cause cancer. What it does do, and they go into more detail, is it adds to the obesity in this country, and being overweight is very bad for cancer. But I highly recommend this podcast. This is a magazine. If you don't know about it, I just wanted to make you aware of it. It's called Cure. It's an actual magazine that comes to the house. They put it out 3 or 4 times a year. It's a first-class magazine. And it's got all the latest updates on clinical trials, food, whatever. They also put it out in a newsletter. It is absolutely free. Either way you go about ordering it. It's absolutely free if you're a patient or a caregiver or a survivor. All you have to do is go to curetoday.com and register for it. So let's take a look at this third expert report. So this is the most extensive report today, the most conclusive report today on food and cancer. Why more people don't know about it, I'm not sure, but it first came out in '97, and then they did more research, 2007, 10 years later, they updated it. 2018 is the last update, and it's called the third expert report. It was put out by the World Cancer Research Fund and the American Institute for Cancer Research, 2 very, very respected organizations. So this is what they did to begin with. They started out with 500,000 of these food studies, like the kind I looked at, mostly in labs with rats and mice. Only because it's very difficult to do this with people, although more and more it's going in that direction. They started out with 500,000 of these food studies. They whittled it down to 7,000 studies. 21 of the top scientists in the world, this was a global effort, still is a global effort, took 10 years to pore over this data and tell us which foods they think might cause cancer and which foods might help prevent it. And now it's updated all the time. So what they did, besides these 2 categories of possibly cause it, possibly reduce our risk, is they put it into 3 categories. There was convincing evidence, there was probable evidence, and there was limited suggestive evidence, which is possible evidence, right? But no proof. The closest we have to proof is anything that fell into the convincing evidence category, and that's strong, consistent, and unlikely to change in the future, but it does. And what they're also finding out now is that this data that I'm going to talk about today, not only does it help you prevent it, it helps you survive this thing and helps prevent a recurrence. So let's take a look at the second expert report. I want to take a look at the second expert report before we go to the third expert report, so we can look at the differences. They have 10 years of CUP, they call it, the Continuous Update Project. I have a link in here to it, but we're going to actually go in and look at that later. Okay, so I actually was in Washington when this report came out, when the second expert report came out. The results is literally this book. I don't know if you can see this. It's like on a dictionary, but they whittled it down to the 10 top recommendations. And I want to go over those. They just summarized it. Okay, I feel a little bit like David Letterman, but when I do this, but I'm going to do it. Okay, so number 1, be as lean as possible without becoming underweight. I struggle with this. I struggle with my weight all my life. I've always struggled with, 10, 15 pounds. I am currently about 35 pounds lighter than I was when I got cancer. Be physically active for at least 30 minutes every day. I do this. I walk or I swim for 30 minutes every day. Avoid sugary drinks. Limit consumption of energy-dense foods. Sugary drinks, of course, your sodas, your lemonade, sugary drinks. What's an energy-dense food? It's any food that's got a lot of calories in it and not much else going for it. So it is your cookies, your candy, your chips, your cakes, your junk food. Eat more of a variety of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and legumes such as beans. That's a no-brainer, right? I mean, we've heard that all our life. Beans are a little miracle food, by the way. You get a big punch for that little itty bitty bean. And there's literally 20,000 different kinds of beans. If you can, you know, there's a little Indian store by me. They've got their own beans. Try something different. And let me just say one quick thing about beans, because people sometimes, oh, I can't eat them, you know, they give me gas. Here's how to get rid of the gas if you're cooking fresh beans. And the beans are a power food, whether you get them out of a can or fresh. Canned, of course, no sugar in there, preferably fresh. So this is what you do. You just soak them overnight. If you soak beans overnight and then rinse them really, really well, and then put more water in the pot and then start cooking them, it will get rid of the gassiness. If you're in a hurry and you can't do it overnight, if you just bring the first water to a really good raging boil, couple minutes, shut it off, let it cool off, and then rinse it and start again, it'll get rid of the gassiness. Limit consumption of red meat such as beef, pork, and lamb, and avoid processed meats. Beef, pork, and lamb. Pork is not the other white meat, as the advertisers would lead us to believe. It's a red meat. American Cancer Society says it's a red meat. This particular study allows for 18 ounces of red meat a week with the goal of getting it down to 11. That's, you know, that's a couple of red meat meals a week. Processed meat. What's a processed meat? Any meat that's been processed. If it's been cured, if it's been salted, if it's got preservatives in it, other than just grinding your meat, if it's been processed, hot dogs, bacon, cold cuts, it's a processed meat. And this study does not allow for 1 ounce of that a week. If consumed at all, limit alcoholic drinks to 2 for men and 1 for women a day. Limit consumption of salty foods and foods processed with salt. This particular study allows for 1,500 milligrams of salt a day, which is a little less than a teaspoon, which is really plenty if you're cooking for yourself. If you're eating processed foods, no, you got to read your labels. A lot of foods have a lot of salt. You're going to go over that 1,500. Don't use supplements to protect against cancer. You know, this is a tough one, but they really show that they don't help you protect you against cancer. Everything I read says try to get your, if you can, try to get your supplements from, you know, from real food. Unless your doctor, of course, recommends it. My doctor put me on D. My D was low. I take a D. They have a subgroup. It's best to breastfeed for 6 months. Okay. And this is important because, again, when after I got clean, they just said, you know, goodbye, see ya. After treatment, cancer survivors should follow the recommendations for cancer prevention because they are finding that this spills over and helps you survive this thing. So this is actually the 3rd expert report. And it's a lot of it is the same information, but they've made it more, you know, graphically user-friendly. But there are a couple of big changes, and I want to look at those. But what they did, instead of energy-dense food, they kind of broke it down to fast food and processed foods, high in fat, starches, and sugars. They're saying to not smoke, not too much time in the sun, reduce your intake of saturated and trans fats. Trans fats are actually illegal now. I don't know if that's the country or California, but there are no trans fats in California. Anyway, but here is the big difference in the 2nd expert report and the 3rd expert report. It's not just 1 or 2 things. It's not saying, oh, I'll eat a little broccoli and I'll walk around the block. It's everything. It's a lifestyle change. It's doing it all. So they said the most benefit is to be gained by treating them as an integrated pattern of behaviors relating to diet and physical activity and other factors that can be considered as a single overarching package or way of life. It's everything, which makes sense. Okay, so this was 2007. This was the only convincing evidence on the convincing evidence list in 2007. Two things after starting out with 500,000 studies, right? Two things, red meat, processed meat. And they showed convincing evidence that it caused colon cancer. This is the convincing evidence now in the third expert report. A lot more on there. As they get more data, they get more studies in, they can change their outcomes. So let me just go over these. Aflatoxins. Aflatoxins is a fungus which really doesn't concern us. It's a fungus that will go on seeds and nuts, and our FDA really checks the food coming in for that. This is really like third world countries, affects the liver. That being said, if you have some, seeds in the cupboard that are then they're a little too long and they're looking a little funky, I'd throw them out. Processed meat is still on the convincing list for colon cancer. Red meat fell off. Red meat went to the probable. It's no longer convincing. So it does change. Arsenic in drinking water for the lungs. Again, third world countries, doesn't pertain to us. But look what joined the list, alcohol. Alcohol for all these cancers, mouth, pharynx, larynx, esophagus, liver, colon, postmenopause, breast cancer, a lot. High dose beta carotene supplements for the lungs. Supplements are funky. Sometimes you can take too many and it can be harmful rather than good. Adult body fatness, being overweight, made it to the convincing list for a lot of cancers. And something we can do nothing about, adult attained height. For, again, many cancers. So let's just go in and look at this third expert report. I'm going to stop this share, stop the PowerPoint, and I'm going to go to my browser and hope for the best. Okay, good. So this is the third expert report. And I invite you to go on here and check it out. There is a lot of good information on here. This is pretty much the same thing I just told you looking at it in a different way, but they will go into more detail. If you click on one of these things, they'll tell you their thoughts on fast food and what cancers it may or may not affect. They have a matrix on here, which I think is kind of cool. The green bubbles are for decreasing your risk. The orange and red bubbles are for increasing your risk. And if you click on them, again, it gives you more details. Let's see if this works. Yes. So this is whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. Again, it'll tell you which cancers it may or may not help. So I invite you to go on here and look around in here. Oh, this one, let me show you one more. They like this one because this is cancer types. So you can go, if you have cancer, you can go to whichever cancer you might have and find out in detail a little more about it and what they think may increase your risk or decrease your risk. And again, all of this is spilling over into surviving this thing too. Okay, let me go back to my PowerPoint. So far, so good. Sometimes this goes sideways on me. Okay, good. Walking. Oh my gosh, exercise is so important. Here I am walking with my standard poodle, Griff. If you follow me on Facebook, you know Griff. So studies are now showing that in the American Cancer Society suggests 30 minutes a day, 150 minutes of moderate exercise a week, like 30 minutes for 5 times a week, or 75 minutes of vigorous exercise. What's vigorous exercise? It's if you are exercising and you can't hold a conversation, if you're out of breath, that's considered vigorous. But studies are literally coming out almost daily showing that exercise can change your outcomes, not just for getting it, for surviving it. This was a study that came out a couple of years ago on breast cancer. And they found that literally 30 minutes of walking every day following a breast cancer diagnosis cut the risk of a recurrence or death in half. I mean, it's a no-brainer. So if you aren't moving, I'm going to suggest you move. And if it's hard, just start somewhere. If you can't even do 30 minutes, do 5 minutes and come back. And maybe you can build up, because it is extremely important. It's not just for breast cancer. Again, every day more evidence comes out that it's linked to lower the risk of all these cancers and help you survive it. So people ask me, what do you do? I'm going to go over this quickly. This is what I do. This is my subset of the second and the third expert report. I don't think about this anymore. It's just simply how I eat. But I do berries every day. I do cruciferous vegetables every day. Greens, spinach, broccoli. I do something. I do citrus fruits every day. I do a little dark chocolate. That's my dessert at night, 70% cacao or more, because it's less sugar in it. And there is some good stuff in dark chocolate. I do garlic every day. I do a green or white tea every day. Herbs and spices, I like to cook. And I'm lucky enough to own my own house. So I have a herb garden, but that doesn't mean anything. These herbs will grow inside the house. There are more antioxidants per gram weight in fresh oregano than blueberries. I put it in my salads. I put it in my soups. I put it in my pizzas. I put it in everything. These are listed from high to low on antioxidants. And the same goes for the spices, high to low in antioxidants. So, it not only does make your food taste better, it's better for us. I like to get some omega-3s in every day. I do a lot of salmon. I probably, eat fish 5 times a week at least, or winter squash. And if not, I'll take a handful of walnuts. I like to get that every day. Onions, shallots have the most antioxidants, and then northern red and western yellow. Red wine, I do a little red wine. I have to tell you, for like 16 years or something, I've always had some red wine at night. Not a lot. I do 3 or 4 ounces more nights than not in like a juice glass. And then this third expert report came out, and I am high risk for breast cancer. So I thought, maybe not. But I also saw a cardiologist speak from Cedars, and she recommends a drink a day that is good for your heart. So I try to split the difference. I do still do a little red wine. I don't do it every day, but I do it 2 or 3 times a week. And now I've cut it down to a couple of ounces. But, I think we have to make our own choices we know our bodies and, by the data we have. I do soy. It's one of the places the American Cancer Society did a 360 on. They used to say it caused cancer. Now they say it helps prevent breast cancer. No proof yet. Again, no proof on turmeric, an Indian spice. I cook a lot of Indian. I like Indian food. If I don't cook with it, I take a little tablet of it. They're doing a lot of studies on it. No proof. No, but I don't think it's hurting me. I do turmeric every day. And of course, I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. This is what I don't do. I haven't had a piece of red meat in 18 years, and I don't miss it. I could not eat, and I used to love a double with grilled onions. I couldn't eat if it were in front of me. It just seems greasy and heavy. I couldn't. If you make this change, if you haven't made this change, your body will change, your mind will change. You won't want it. I haven't had a piece of processed meat in 18 years, and I used to love sausage. I haven't had it in 18 years. I do very little sugar. I certainly do no white sugar. I don't do any simple carbohydrates, which are white rice, white bread, anything like that. If you've gotten my cookbook, you will see the dessert section is about this big. I don't do a lot, and they're not very sweet. Got used to not eating it. When I go to a party now, and it's a birthday party, and I say, oh, just to be polite, give me a really, really, thin slice. It's disgusting to me. It's disgustingly sweet. I can't do it anymore. And fats. Okay. So the only fats I do are, liquid fats, vegetable oils, are canola oil and olive oil. Very briefly, I'll go over omega-6s. Omega-6s, and this for me falls into energy-dense food, processed food. I'm going to get off of this for a second. So omega-6s are what they call an EFA, essential fatty acids. As our 9s, as our omega-3s, our body needs them, they're essential, but we have to get them from an outside source. Our body doesn't make them. So, and if you do a vegetable oil, any vegetable oil, they will have omega-6s and omega-3s in it. There are different ratios for different oils. So I do canola oil and olive oil. It is the lowest in saturated, the highest in unsaturated, and has a pretty good smoke point. So if you're cooking with it, it doesn't break apart. So we should have a ratio of omega-6s to omega-3s of like 3 to 1, 4 to 1 low, okay? And I don't think about it. I just eat a healthy diet and I get that. But we eat so poorly in this country that we have a ratio, some people, of like 40 to 50 to 1. And what's wrong with that is inflammatory. And where we get that is processed foods. If you read labels, I'm hoping that you will read labels after this, you will see it is in absolutely everything. Things that you wouldn't think it's in. This is, tomato paste, soybean oil. Soybean oil is the most used oil in the world. It's cheap and it's easy and it's high in 6s. Tomato paste, I've just got a few things here. This just breaks my heart. Girl Scout cookies. I would think they do better for those kids, honestly. This has palm oil in it. It's got hydrogenated palm kernel oil in it, hydrogenated, which is even worse than just regular. I just think they do better. This cereal looks like it should be healthy. It says organic on it. No, it's got sunflower oil in it and a whole bunch of sugar. Almost everything, honestly, that you pick up, these little packets, salad dressing, ketchup, mayonnaise, they've all got the oils in it. And I can't tell you how many times I'm at a grocery store and I see, and I don't like I never eat processed food, but I eat it sparingly and I'm selective about it. And I go, boy, that looks good. And I pick it up and I read the label. It's got all these oils in it and I just won't do it. And would it hurt me if I did it once or twice? Probably not, but I just don't do it at all. You'll see a lot of this, okay? Stuff that says it's healthy, superfoods, beet chips. It was healthy. It was a superfood before they deep fried it in sunflower oil. So that's omega-6s. Let me go back to my PowerPoint here. And of course, the other thing I do is I watch my salt intake. I took this picture at Costco. This is what we're up against. This is intrinsic in our lifestyle. What I didn't take a picture of is all these people lined up to get this food. There is nothing on here that I would eat. And I'll go to a restaurant with anybody. I'll never say, oh, I won't go there. I'll go there. I'll find something to eat. Something, somewhere, a steakhouse. I'll have a salad. I'll have a potato. I'll have something. There's nothing on this menu that I would eat. It's all processed. You've got, it's all full of sugar. People said to me, Pam, what about the salad? There is a salad off to the side there that you can't see. There's more saturated fat in that salad than a hamburger. You'd rather have a hamburger because of the salad dressing and the croutons that are deep fried in that oil. So you think you're doing good, but you're not. But this is what we need to fight to get those odds down in this country. This is out of the UK, but we have it here too. 4 out of 5 hospitals are serving bacon and ham products. When I was getting my chemo over at Cedars, they were nice enough to give me lunch. I was there all day. I have small veins. I was literally there all day. I learned to bring my own food. The first lunch they gave me was ham and cheese on white with mayo. I'm hoping it's 18 years later that they've made changes. This is a Relay for Life I did. This is an American Cancer Society sponsored event. You raise money for cancer. You walk in a circle for 24 hours. These are the 2 trucks that they contracted for food that day. Corn dogs and cookies. And you couldn't like get out easily from the parking lot or anything. So I'm starving, right? I mean, I'm not eating a corn dog. People said, Pam, don't worry, at 6 o'clock, they changed the trucks. Something else will come. This is what came, a bacon truck. I'm not kidding. I was so appalled. I wrote the head of nutrition for the American Cancer Society. But the problem is that they want people to attend these things. They want people to come. And this is what people want to eat. This is what attracts people. Food, not fruits and vegetables. But this is why 1 out of 2 children in America is going to get cancer today. Nancy, this is for you. I went to the Strawberry Festival. We were talking about the Strawberry Festival up in Oxnard. I didn't find one healthy thing to eat there. I mean, nothing. A strawberry festival, except when you first walked in, they were selling flats of strawberries. They took those strawberries and they wrapped them in dough and they deep fried them. Chili dogs, hot dogs, sausage, deep fried stuff, nothing. And look at the people lined up to get it. I don't know what's going to change, and this is probably is not going to change in my lifetime either. But I kind of feel like these days too, like when I go to something like this and I with people and I go, no, you really, I can't eat that. I almost feel like the only person in the room with a mask anymore. You know, everybody's staring at you like, why aren't you doing that? Okay, so this is a big deal, and I knew it would be a big deal when this came out. So we're becoming more conscious about it. And then now we've got this whole thing of plant-based foods, but this is not a healthy food. This is healthier for the planet. We're killing less animals. There's less methane. It's better for the ozone, but this is a processed food. Make no mistake about it. These are the ingredients in those burgers. There's like 25 ingredients. Got the oils? Also got coconut oil. I get this question a lot, just FYI. I asked my dietitian, who is one of the 250 oncology dietitians in the country, what about coconut oil? She said, it's a saturated fat, don't do it. So anyway, I don't do it. But look at all these preservatives. This is a processed food, and it's so popular. We've got fried chicken, we've got fish, we got bacon. It's everywhere. This is not good for us. People think you're doing, oh, I'm doing plant-based. It's not. Let's just take a look at the difference between a plant-based burger and a beef burger. There really, for health-wise purposes, there really isn't that much difference. Some of them are even worse. Look at this Beyond Famous Star. There's 1,550 milligrams of salt in that thing. That's it for the day. They're not that much different in saturated fat or calories. It's not that much better. And again, I think it's worse. If I wanted a burger, I don't want a burger, I'd have the beef before I had this. I took this going into Whole Foods one day. They're doing street food, and I did this for 2 reasons. One, to talk about, because the summer's coming up, about cooking meat. Any meat should not be cooked at a high heat. It should be cooked at a medium heat, because when you cook meat at a high heat, and that's including fish, carcinogens form. Carcinogens are a cancer-causing agent. Again, there's no proof. We don't know if we can eat one burnt thing. Do we have to eat a burnt thing every day? I don't know, but I do know it causes cancer in laboratories. And what causes cancer is what you can't see back there. That guy is grilling those chickens. It's charred. It's charred black. That's unhealthy. I put a link on here for an MD Anderson article about grilling. There are ways to mitigate. If you want to put something on the grill this summer, you can marinate it. You can par cook it. It stops those carcinogens, or at least halts them a little bit. So anyway, I put that on there for you to take a look. Also, don't think everything you buy at Whole Foods is wonderful and everything you buy at Ralph's is bad. I shop at Ralph's. I think you can eat healthfully anywhere by just making better choices. This is all stuff from Whole Foods. I wouldn't eat it. It's everything they say not to eat. It's soda, it's pork, it's processed meat, it's deep fried, it's full fat. No, just because it's got a 365 label on it does not mean it's healthy. This is something, just a little thing I do every week, and I threw it in here. And anything that's might be a little tired in my refrigerator or not tired, it's vegetables, I chop them up. It's going to take a little more time to eat this way than standing in a fast food line, but you know, we're worth it. I chop them up. I put them in a little bit of oil, salt and pepper, garlic. I put some foil on it. I roast it. 400 degrees for 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how you like your vegetables. If you like them al dente or you like them mushy. And then I've got, and I did this today, as a matter of fact, then I've just got cooked vegetables in my refrigerator all week. I've got them. If you have something that's there and it's healthy, you're going to go for that. I have it for a side. I have it for a pizza. I have it for a salad. I have it for a quick stir fry. I do the same thing with fruits. I take my fruits, again, especially if they're a little tired at the end of the week, I chop them up. I mix them up with some cinnamon and some pumpkin pie spice. Same thing, cover it with foil, bake it for a little while till they get mushy. This is what I have for dessert more nights than not, along with the dark chocolate. It becomes like a peach pie. It's warm and it's gooey. You just don't have the crust. We talked about artichokes with Nancy. They are a superfood. It is coming into the season. Eat the whole thing. Don't buy not that the little jars are bad, but there's vitamins in the stem and the leaves. I don't have time to show you, but you can Google it, how to cook an artichoke. It's the season. The other thing about garlic is if you chop it and then cook it, it's like loses some of its anti-cancer properties. But if you chop it and you put it on the side for a little bit, then cook with it, it retains it. So I got in the habit of that's a study that they did, of chopping it up and leaving it on the side for a little bit. I want to talk about Google Alerts too. If you're not familiar with Google Alerts, I do this. And I find it helpful to stay on top of things. Oh, I can't get to it. Darn, 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 darn. I've got the screen sharing on top and now I can't get to my Google Alerts. Darn. Maybe if I close this. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So these happen to be my Google Alerts that I put in. You need a Gmail account, but that's free. Just sign up for one. I have these Google Alerts for me. I have a BRCA1 because I'm BRCA1 positive. If anything new comes out about it, I get it. They send you an email with a link to the article, anything that's in the news about cancer. I have food and cancer, nutrition cancer, ovarian cancer. Let's just, for the heck of it, put something in here. I'll put breast cancer, nutrition. Or you could put breast cancer clinical trials. They'll come in, you'll be deluged in your email box, your inbox, but it's okay. I don't look at everything. I take a quick look, something piques my interest, and that's how I go about tweaking my diet. And I still tweak it. 18 years later, I still tweak my diet. Okay, I think we're coming to an end here. And I'm going to leave time for questions. I have a video, but I don't know if I have time to show it. So if anybody's interested in this, it's a rice, beans, and salad. I have a couple of videos I have that I did for the cookbook. Email me and I'll be happy to send you a link to the videos, but I want to leave time for question and answers. This is just, the 1902 is the first time the government told us what to eat and what not to eat. And they were pretty good about it then. And then over the years, they've tweaked it as their evidence came in. I just did this to invite you to, I guess, stay on top of it and make your own choices, do your own research. In 1919, one of the main food groups was sugars and sugary foods. They just didn't know any better. In 1946, butter and fortified margarine was one of the main things you should eat every day. That's what I grew up with, 1957. In 1992, we have the pyramid, which is a whole lot of carbs at the bottom of that pyramid. 2005 was the very first time they put exercise into the picture. They gave this plate out in 2011 and they've never changed it. This is it, half fruits and vegetables, half protein, grains, and some dairy. I personally like this one better. I like the Harvard University plate better. It's pretty much the same, except they include some healthy oils and water. And then I just gave you some of the trusted sites that I like. There's so much bad stuff out there, and it looks like, you know, it's official and it looks like there's proof. You know, there isn't. Somebody in that podcast, if you listen to that podcast, the doctor talks about somebody reading or hearing about fasting, that it might help. So this woman fasted for 2 days before she had her chemo, wound up in the hospital for 4 days and almost didn't make it. So I am giving you these. These are ones that I like when I do research. This is where I go. These are people I trust. And that is all, folks. So I'm open to questions.
Okay, well, I can read what's come in through the chat box for you. Let me check those out real quick.
Let me see if I don't know the answer. I do have a dietitian that will help me out if I don't know it, and I will get back to you in an email.
Somebody here was, and I'm starting up at the top, so it might be in reference to earlier parts of your lecture, but somebody was saying, I did not see malignant melanoma on your list of percentages. So I think that was a slide perhaps you were sharing.
Right, that was, I think, how many, that because it, maybe the data wasn't even out there when that slide was, they didn't have every cancer on there. That's, I think I pulled that off the American Institute for Cancer Research site. I don't think it was on there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Next question says, did you lose any of your intestines in your surgery? Wondering if high fiber is appropriate for those whose digestive system has been shortened.
I did not lose any of my intestines. That's a great question. And one of the things I wanted to say is, if you make any changes to your diet, certainly if they're significant, like this woman who decided to fast before she went to chemo, really run it by your nutritionist, your dietitian, your doctor, your nurse first. I would not do anything on my own. I don't know about some of your intestines being cut out. I don't know.
Okay, somebody else is asking, what fruits besides berries do you recommend?
Any fruit. I mean, they're saying to, you know, color in your vegetables, color in your fruit. Just vary them. I wouldn't eat the same thing every day. I eat oranges, I eat apples, I eat bananas, I eat cantaloupe, just pineapple. Just vary it.
Yeah, she's referencing that many fruits are high in sugar. So
yes, yes, and you can't eat all the fruit you want either. They are high in sugar. I mean, you can probably eat all the green vegetables you want, but you have to, you can't eat all fruits every day. You have to, you know, eat less of that.
Okay, somebody is asking, what about coffee and tea?
Both of them have antioxidants in them. I drink coffee sometimes. And as you know, Nancy, when I usually do the full thing, there are some carcinogens in coffee because we burn those beans. A dark roast coffee has less carcinogens in it than a light roast. When I do coffee, I do a dark roast. They both have, I think it's a toss-up, honestly, whichever one you use.
Someone is making the comment about black garlic is a lot more potent than plain garlic, and that they buy the paste and it tastes delicious.
I bet it does. I haven't tried black garlic, but I bet it does. I love garlic.
Yeah, here's another question regarding recommendations when people have had part of their colon removed or their GI affected by radiation treatment when they don't absorb high fiber foods. Also, when there's severe nausea and appetite is decreased. So any recommendations there?
No, again, talk to your dietitian and your nutritionist and your doctor. And that podcast I gave you too, one of those doctors, and I found it for me when I was going through it, you need to get calories in when you're going through it. And if you eat what, maybe you start all of this afterwards. You do what you have to do to get through it. And I didn't eat like this going through it. I had a taste for it, like I was pregnant. I had a taste for vanilla milkshakes. I haven't had one since, and I didn't have them before, but during chemo, I had vanilla milkshakes. Do what you ever have to do to get through it, I think.
Okay, somebody is asking for the name of your cookbook and where can we find it?
It is the Ultimate Anti-Cancer Cookbook, and you can get it on Amazon.
Great. I love your cookbook. Next question is asking, please comment on dairy and eggs. This was so helpful. Thanks.
I know the China study. He doesn't do dairy. I do dairy, limited, and I do non-fat, pretty much non-fat, sometimes low fat. When I got diagnosed, that's what the American Cancer Society had on their website, and I stuck with it. And I do some dairy. Eggs, I think, I do eggs too. There's nutrients in eggs. I wouldn't do too many of them. It's high in saturated fat, but once a week I do a couple of eggs. I substitute in my baking and whatever, I substitute 2 egg whites for an egg. It works out fine.
Great. Okay. Somebody's asking any suggested diet for constipation due to cancer treatment?
No, again, that's, I'm hoping that wherever you are getting your treatment, they have a nutritionist or dietitian that you can talk to. I certainly did, and that's the person to talk to for very specifically about this kind of thing.
Okay. Someone's asking about, can I get a link to the recording? I had a hard time logging in the beginning, and just to let you know, we will be putting this up on the Torrance Memorial Hospital website under the South Bay Survivorship Consortium page. And so it'll be up in about a week and a half, but the video recording will be available soon, and you'd be able to reference it there. We've got a couple more questions here. There's a question about the microbiome, health and cancer, and wanting to know a little bit more about that.
I am sorry, I'm not familiar with that.
Okay.
If you, again, if I can get the email of the person who got that, who asked that, I'd be happy to, get to the dietitian who helps me and get back to you on that.
Okay. What is the link between caffeine and cancer? And I think you answered that in the previous question.
Right, it's the acrylamides, which they found are carcinogenic by roasting them. And again, if you email me, I have a list of coffees in rating them for acrylamides, which ones were tested and have the most in it. I think it's Folgers dark roast. It has I still do a cup in the morning. I do the one with the least acrylamides, which are carcinogenic.
Okay, I think I'll ask 2 more questions here because I want to be mindful of your time. Is there any evidence that having a treat such as sweets or junk food occasionally or small amount once a week, for example, versus a very strict diet of no meat, no junk foods is more beneficial?
I don't think so. A lot of people, this is a choice I made. My risk was really high to get this thing back, and it's still high. So I might have gone more strict than other people, but a lot of people say it's balance. It's a balance. There isn't good stuff and there isn't bad stuff. It's a balance. It's to get a good balance between the two.
Okay, and then last question here, and I will say there's some comments here from some of the participants about salt and sugar and things like that. And but I just want to stick to the questions here. So any recommendations for crock pot cooking temperature?
No, I don't know. I don't think that gets very hot, does it? And that's, I think that I don't know how hot it gets, but when you're cooking meat in an, I haven't used a crock pot in years. When you're cooking meat in an oven, maybe 350 would be a moderate heat. I don't think a crock pot gets higher than that.
Yeah, I don't know that it would get to the point of getting burned
Right.
or to be charred. And then I guess we'll end on this last piece where it's saying, can you show your book so that they can get the name?
Gosh, I don't think I have one. Oh my goodness.
You know, Pam, is Miriam. We can, we'll
Yeah.
have the name of the cookbook with,
Don't. It's the ultimate. If
Yeah.
if you put me into Amazon, you'll get it. Pam Braun.
we'll have the name with the video.
Right, the ultimate anti-cancer cookbook. So Pam, gosh, we are so grateful for your time tonight, and thank you for sharing all of your knowledge. I mean, going through those studies, those are some big studies there. So we appreciate you gleaning all of that important information for us. We do have an evaluation that we are going to be putting up on the screen, and we'd ask for everybody just to stay on for a couple minutes just to answer that. It should be pretty quick here. There's only 8 questions.
Well, I'm signing off. I want to thank everybody and I wish everybody, good health, and don't hesitate to honestly call me if you have a question. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Pam.